The matter of training, I still think a way out in the context of rebranding, we still have to find a clearinghouse that certifies people to do the extension work, and we can put all kinds of training opportunities in that environment, and we can actually grade it. We can say you are first level certified or second level, and certainly we expect that the agencies that are going to employ these people will pay more money. So if, for instance, Caribbean Chemicals has an agronomist 3 who's certified at that level, they get more money than the one who's agronomist 1, and that kind of stuff. So the certification training is important. The other aspect is, right now at the university, what we are trying in the department is we are trying to offer students across the board who come to our Faculty of Science and Agriculture an opportunity to study extension. We offer it as an elective, and anybody who is studying any of the disciplines in science and agriculture can come and join us to study agricultural extension technique, and it seems to be working. Its early results is in environmental resource management, because a lot of students have to leave the university and go out there and interface with people and educate people about how to maintain the environment, and we are seeing them apply a lot of the skills that we put into them. So there are lots of training ideas that can work and that can contribute towards the education of people who we would like to improve. In Canada, I notice if you go to some of the more high-end kind of training, you go to an area where there are dairy farms, and every dairy farmer who is probably owning and milking 400 animals 3 times a day will have the exact kind of equipment and the exact kinds of prowess as the research station where all of this is being researched. So there's that very, very sophisticated level, and I guess we can get to that level too. So there are all kinds of options for training, and that's the point I'm making. The other area, quickly though, on the matter of evaluation, again, there are lots of new ways to evaluate outcome, beside what Dunson talked about, which he correctly said was related to modern economic system. A lot of testimony, a lot of case studying, a lot of acknowledgements, and distinct ways in which people are changing what they do and how they do it. There are all kinds of ways to measure that now, and there's a lot of extension evaluation research that we can bring to the rebranding effort.
Okay, Mr. Leslie, would you like to add something on that?
I think what I really want to respond to is the question of not seeing extension. I think it's a common complaint in the Caribbean. And just to put some humor in this, there was a particular farmer who said that he did not see Mr. Leslie. But he ended up in some altercation with somebody else, and they chopped him up. He ended up in the hospital. So when I went to see him, I asked him, why did you say that? He said, Leslie, but you know, this is the only way I could get the Minister of Agriculture to listen to me. So then you have to put it in context, not seeing extension. Let us understand that extension is part of a wider public service. There has been complaint of extension, complaint about nurses, complaint about the police force. When you complain about any public sector government organization, I do not hear these complaints are being followed with the suggestion to privatize the police force, nor the police service. Let us understand that. So it is a wider spectrum of things. And so on the question of not seeing extension, there's a chain of command. So if you do not see an extension officer, there is somebody in charge. Some people have told me that they have not seen extension. When I get back to the region and get the message across, it was not so. In some cases, it was so. And when they came to me, I get the extension officers to go and do what they had to do. On the other side, let us understand this, that the farmers in the Caribbean and in Dominica must also understand that agriculture is a business. And therefore, we must develop a business approach. If you have a problem, and you genuinely want to see somebody, and you have not seen that person, you should find a way to work it out. If you're sick, and you're at home, and you have not seen a doctor, you cannot say that you've not seen extension. On the question of positioning extension in about number of farmers per extension, Theodore Anthony, the question comes from me, but that may not be possible. Sometimes you look at the commodity system that Dr. Campbell spoke about, or the geographical area. And looking at extension as the wider public service, you know, there are some economic constraints that the government will tell you about. So there's no quick fix to it. You have to study the situation and apply what is best suited for that area.
All right, thanks. As we head back to the floor, maybe this is one of the points that... Oh, you want to add something? Okay.
Yeah, I was just given a question about why is there, how did it change from farmers talking to farmers to shops being number one? I think in the 80s, when I was a teenager, there were only a certain number of shops. If I remember correctly, in 1985-86, when I joined the company, we maybe had 30 distributors in Trinidad and Tobago. Because of and there were concentrations of what we call food baskets around West Macoya, and there were large acreages that were in vegetables. Because of the conversion of valuable agricultural lands into non-agriculture purposes, there are now smaller pockets of growing areas throughout Trinidad. So it meant that the farmers, and because of ease of transportation and everything else, we now service about 125 to 150 shops. So the shop is now at the farmer's doors. So it's easy for a person when he's leaving the area that he's farming to just stop and pick up tomorrow morning's chemicals, and while there they get into discussions. Yes, I don't think that our farmers don't talk to each other. Of course they do. All West Indians talk to each other. But for some reason now, and it's been so for the last 8 years as we see it, they get their information from the shops. Finally, just one quick thing that I would like to add in the discussion is that we register farmers in Trinidad and we give them a registration ID, and its primary focus is so that they can get land or they can get loans. But I feel that the Ministry of Agriculture throughout the Caribbean should play more of a bigger or larger role in that licensing process. A farmer should not be able to walk into any shop. And in Trinidad we have an issue, as many of you all know, where the number one form of poisoning is gramoxone poisoning. That's a class 1 chemical. Class 1 chemicals throughout the Caribbean are available to any farmer. I disagree with that. I disagree with that completely. I think that farmers, if they're registered, should be trained, at least 1 day training by the Ministry of Agriculture, not by private sector, by the Ministry of Ministry of Agriculture, on important things like misuse of chemicals, abuse of chemicals, contamination, withholding periods, safety. None of our farmers wear respirators. We give them, we talk to them, we provide them, and they don't do it. It's uncomfortable. So I think it's important that registration be at least a 1 day registration where they get it independently trained by the Ministry of Agriculture personnel on what it is to be a farmer. It also will restrict the sale and misuse of class 1 chemicals. Class 1 chemicals are the most dangerous chemicals that we do have. There are a couple of them that are sold throughout the Caribbean, and I disagree with it being used by a backyard gardener or by a small farmer who has right next to a river or anything like that. There is very little education. We try as best as we can. And every training session that we talk about safety, withholding periods, we put it on our labels now, all of that, so that the farmer is educated, because it's critical for us to survive. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Before I pass the mic to the people who have their hands up, I'd just like to put one comment to the panelists. In all the discussion we've had this morning, extension is synonymous with the farming community. What about the rest of the value chain? Who's going to service the value chain? In terms of the function, we heard about organic extensionists. What about the rest of the value chain? Who's going to give advice to the people who are not on the farm? Is that a role of extension? Dr. Dunstan Campbell mentioned extension is now applied to everything. So we need to probably talk about removing the concept of extension just to the farm level and to the value chain, which is what now the Caribbean countries are rushing towards in terms of a value chain approach to agriculture. How does the UE prepare your extensionists for value chain and the current and other people?
If I can just add quickly to that, and that's quite right. We don't, as extension services, go and visit a house who has a problem with a lawn with an insecticide. It's very difficult and rare for us, and that's where the shop owners come in a tremendous amount. So that extension service is carried out by the shop owners in most cases. That's a homeowner, backyard garden type of extension officer.